Hi, good morning. I hope you guys are well. So, we're finally going to get into the book. I know I said I was going to almost a week ago, but I had to get some things situated with this beauty. So, it's been out for officially 5 days now. You can go get this. Great thing is now, at one point I was posting 2 links, but now there is only 1 link. So you can find the Kindle and paperback versions all in the same happy place, and you don't have to go searching for it. I posted the link in the description along with the video title and everything like that. So if you want to go get this bad boy, just click on the link and everything you want, whether you want ebook or paperback, or if you want both, you can get them all in one happy place instead of going to 2 different places. Yay! So, late night thoughts. I started this about subconsciously. I started this about 2 years ago, and what really made me want to make a book was the fact that I was going through this phase where I was just constantly writing and writing. Literally, almost every single day. Sometimes I would write 3 or 4 poems a day. Not even joking. And I noticed a lot of the times when I was writing, it was literally late at night. Between the hours of like 11 p.m. and like 5 a.m. So after I had gotten to a point where I had written a lot, I was just like, I should just make a book out of this. And it was just a thought like in my head, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm gonna really like actually do it or not. But then the more I wrote, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. So I got to a point where I had got to 100 poems, and I was like, okay, that's it, I'm done. Like, I really need to tap out and just stop, because if not, it's going to be like a 400 poem book, and nobody's got time for that, and who wants to read that much? So I said something to my dad, and I said, oh, I'm going to put a poem book out, and I'm going to put 100 out. And he was like, what? And he goes, don't do that many, that's too many. I'm so glad I listened to him. He told me to cut it in half, so I did. I split the 100 poems down to 50, and it was all good and done. So I thought, Lord, did I have a long time to come ahead of me. Split it down. I downsized it to 50. Then after I did that, I had organized them and, put them in order. And then I got to a point where I had to really dig deep and figure out which ones fit best, which ones didn't really go with the narrative, just the whole 9 yards. So I got it down to 50 or 51, and I was like, okay, that's it. That was probably earlier this year. I was like, okay, 50, 51. Yeah, nope. So I kept writing for some months after that. And it was just almost as if everything, almost 90% of the stuff that I had written after the point where I decided I wanted to put 50, 51 poems, majority of it still fit the narrative of the book that I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, so I guess we're not going to do a 50 poem book. So I ended up, I believe, with 62 altogether in the book. I believe so. Now came the hard part. So I had all the poems that I wanted. I really literally got to a point where I knew I was completely done as far as adding poems. And now I had to organize them and figure out how it had to flow. So the way I thought of the poem book was, I thought of it as like music or an album. So when you listen to an album, you want it to flow. You really don't want to have too many tracks in an album that you skip. So I really thought about it, and I'm like, how can I make this book flow and make it cohesive and to where it all makes sense? So once I actually figured out how many poems I was going to put in the book, the hardest part actually was organizing it. And like I said, I'm so glad I went with what my dad said and not putting 100, because I had a hell of a time, excuse my language, just putting 50 in order and then figuring out how to make it flow. So then I figured, okay, why don't I do categories and see which ones fit what category. So then at that point, I started editing again because some of the poems that I had didn't fit anything and it just still didn't fit it. So I kept editing and I'm like, what's some good categories that I could do? I believe the first category that I came up with, honestly, was for chapter 1, trauma and heartbreak. Because when I first initially started, when I was first in that phase of just writing like crazy, it was a lot of just like sad and depressing stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to write a sad, depressing poetry book. I feel like there's so much sadness and depression in everyday life. And it's not me like ignoring that, but I don't want to make an entire book that focuses just on hard times or rough times or bad times. So, chapter 1, that title came fairly quickly. Now, the other 4, not as much. The second one I would want to say, the second one was chapter 3. The second title that I came up with, the second heading that I came up with was actually chapter 3, which is Sex, Love, and Lust. That one was really fun. I've never really explored writing in a sexual, romantic, loving, intimate kind of way. And I'd always wanted to tap into that side of writing, but I just never got around to it. And I always felt weird and awkward when writing about stuff like that because I had never expressed myself in any kind of way in that kind of way. And so I was either like, when I first started writing when I was a little kid, it was usually like sad stuff. And then the older I got, I wrote some kind of lovey, cute stuff, but not to the extent that I did when I wrote for chapter 3 in this book. And that one was actually really fun for me. Like, I thought I was going to be really shy and reserved and just like held back a little bit. But with this book, I really let myself loose in all of the chapters, not just one or the other. I really just let myself go and let go of the normal standards of a typical poetry book. Because at one point I really was stuck in like, oh, everything has to rhyme, and if it doesn't rhyme, it doesn't make sense. And I was really, stuck in this mind frame of how I've been writing my whole life. And once I let that ideal or normal or standard way of writing go, once I let that go, I really opened myself to a whole completely new world as far as writing goes. And so chapter 3 really challenged me in a good way, because it really let me be uninhibited. Is that the word I'm looking for? I think so. Hi, I'm a poet, but my English isn't the best. So, it really just let me be free and just really put my true and honest thoughts on paper. And it felt so good. Like, it felt so good to just let it all out and not worry about it and just be who I was exactly on paper and explore myself in that intimate sexual kind of way. So that was the second one that I came up with. And then the third one, I believe, was Dreamland, which is chapter 2. Now, chapter 4 and 5, which is chapter 4 is reflective and chapter 5 is hope and breakthrough. So I want to say those were probably, honestly, the most challenging as far as really digging deep and really looking at myself and who I was as a person and how I really felt. So chapter 4 is very much reflective. Now, a lot of it is actually reflective on myself. So that's why I say it was partially one of the most challenging ones, because it's so easy to point the finger and blame others and, well, this is why, this person's the reason why I have this issue, or, excuse me, that person's the reason why I have this issue. It's so easy to blame everything on everyone else instead of taking responsibility for your own actions, and to know that it is not always someone else who's the problem. So chapter 4, I want to read one to you from chapter 4. It's called Teach Me. So this one is really about how you may think you know about not about a certain situation, but you might think you know it all about one particular thing, and then you have someone or something that comes into your life or that happens in your life that really shows you really don't know as much as you think you do. So this one is called Teach Me, and this is in chapter 4, Reflective. Excuse me. I thought I knew it all, the ins and outs of love. I swore I knew it all. There's only one way to love. Straight and narrow, no diverting or obstacles to get in my way of love. Till I stumbled upon a broken man, one with many scars and a traumatic upbringing, who turned my world upside down and confused everything that once made sense in my simple-minded mind. So much damage, so much baggage, and here I am left with the broken pieces, not sure if I'm ready to unpack yet. I found you in the midst of finding myself. Didn't think I needed a man, but truth be told, I did. Not to love me, but to show me how to love. Show me how to build from the ground up. Baby steps that resulted in leaps and bounds. Unconditionally, patiently, gently, and kindly is how I learned to love you, while I was also learning to love myself. You taught me the ins and outs that I truly knew nothing about. You taught me how to love someone who's never been loved. So with this particular one, there was this guy that I was dealing with, and there were some things that, would trigger him that I would do, and I was very insensitive to his traumatic upbringing, which I talked about in the poem. And like if I would yell at him or like raise my voice, and I'm like, you're a grown man, like get over it, what's wrong with you? Until he got to a point where he really told me, the way that you act sometimes makes me not want to be close to you and open up to you. And I really had to think about that, because for a while I was the victim, and like I always played it as if I was never in the wrong. And chapter 4 really, really caused me to dig deep and to really look at myself and to look at my flaws and faults, and not, beat myself up over them, but acknowledge them and work on them to change them and to better myself, and to understand that sometimes I am the problem. Excuse me, my eye itches. Sometimes I am the problem. Sometimes it's not everyone around me. I put myself in situations when I know better, when things are very obvious in front of my face, and I choose to ignore things. And I think that's a lot of us when we get to a point in life. No, there is no always doing everything right. We're gonna mess up. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna hurt people. We're gonna upset people. We're gonna disappoint people. But we have to acknowledge that, and we have to be willing to admit that sometimes, point blank, it is us and it's not everyone else. So that was really, chapter 4 was really reflective. A lot of it was reflective within myself, but also some of it I spoke from the point of view of others. Now chapter 5, which is Hope and Breakthrough, I think this was the last chapter heading that I had finally came to conclusion with. So just a little background on how this one came through. So I grew up Christian. I still am Christian, but I believe in God, and whatnot. And I always had a strong faith in God, especially when I was younger. But as I got older, the opinions and remarks of other people really started to sit in with me. And I really let it deter my faith and my belief, not my belief in God, but more so of my faith. And I used to speak about God all the time when I was a little girl, and I used to talk about it all the time, and I was so proud of my faith and my belief in God. And as I got older, subconsciously, I really let people and things really chip at that, and I really let people and things, kill that in me and die that down, along with my own self-detriment. And I've always deep down had that faith, but for years I was just never proud of speaking on it and really sharing my two piece about it, or being very out there and boisterous about it. So when I wrote chapter 5 with Hope and Breakthrough, it was such a release for me. I mean, the entire book was, truth be told, the entire book was. But chapter 5 really brought it home for me, because I felt like I needed that. And I'm not here to push God or religion or anything like that on anybody, but I feel we as a human race, we're all looking for hope and answers to our questions, and we're all looking for guidance and faith and a light at the end of the tunnel, which I have a poem in my book called Light at the End of the Tunnel. It's a bit lengthy, so I won't read it to you, but if you are interested, okay, this is the end of it right here. If you are interested in reading this, please feel free to buy the book. But we are all looking for that hope and a better world and a better place to go. And chapter 5 really, it gave me that hope, because I believe in God, but sometimes even I'm just like, what is going on in the world? The world is such a scary place, and it seems to only get worse. And you know what they say, it gets worse before it gets better. And it's so scary sometimes. And chapter 5, Hope and Breakthrough, is very much a closing, bring it back to home. Like, my faith, for me personally, chapter 5 is like not only the closing to the book, but just me bringing it back home, coming back to my roots, and understanding and realizing that there are better days and better things to come. But in the meanwhile, I hope that this book, but especially chapter 5, really gives people something to look forward to, something that people can relate to. Chapter 5 is really, really special to me, because I think, as I've said already, we are all looking for that something that that's something that just puts us at ease, even if it's only for a moment, even if it's not forever. For me, chapter 5, it helps put me at ease when I really feel like, whether it's in the world or in my own personal life, that things are just falling to shambles. They are falling apart, and everything is just crumbling beneath me. And I really, really, it's something so personal and dear to me. And I hope that the book, but especially chapter 5, really helps to settle and ease whoever reads it. I hope it helps to ease your mind and give you some kind of peace and hope, even if it's just for a moment, and you can look back at this book, but especially chapter 5, and know that you are not alone in feeling any kind of way, but especially when you're looking for something better and hope. And so that's the main reason I wrote chapter 5. So as far as organizing the chapters, so once I went through and organized each chapter within itself, I had to look at the bigger picture. And I had to look at, how do I want to organize each chapter? So that's where what I said my comment earlier about, I viewed this how I view an album. You want it, even though it's a book, you still want it to flow. You still want it to make sense. You still, because you can get lost, you can lose people if it doesn't flow or if it doesn't make sense in the way that it's structured. So once I got all the chapters, figured out within each chapter itself, I said, okay, so how do I want to do this? So I set it up like this. Chapter 1, I'm going to go through all the chapter titles. Trauma and Heartbreak. Chapter 2, Dreamland. Chapter 3, Sex, Love, and Lust. Chapter 4, Reflective. And Chapter 5 is Hope and Breakthrough. So I started off the book kind of a little bit on the dark side, if you would say, if you want to call it. Because if I think about it, me personally as a reader, I wouldn't want to read a book, and like the end of it is depressing or sad or not the most uplifting. For me as a reader, I put myself not just in the author's point of view, but also as a reader. I'd rather get the heavier stuff out of the way and then let the rest of it flow and be beautiful and let it just naturally take its course. So that was the main reason that I put chapter 1 as Trauma and Heartbreak first, because I wanted to just get it out the way. Because it just felt very right and natural to me to make that the first one. Get the heavy stuff out the way, cry it out, feel what you need to feel, and move on. So chapter 2, I'm going to kind of bunch chapter 2 and chapter 3 together just a little bit. So, excuse me, chapter 2 is Dreamland, and then chapter 3 is Sex, Love, and Lust. So when I was splitting those up, I'm like, they kind of sound similar, because Dreamland is very lovey-dovey, fantasy, kind of world, and just really, really imaginative. And I felt that correlated a lot with love. But I was like, it just like, the more I really thought about it, the more I felt like it feels right to make them their own separate chapters, because I want chapter 2 I want you to get lost in all of it, but I want chapter 2 to kind of feel like a dreamland, kind of like an escape, and not an escape in a bad way, but you get lost and you have fun and excuse me, and you just feel it, and it's just fun and explorative and just so imaginative, and it just felt so right to put it as its own chapter. So roll into chapter 3, which is Sex, Love, and Lust. Now, I put a warning at the beginning of the book, and I will read this warning to you. Excuse me, we live in Michigan, honey, so as you see, the weather is not up to par. So I put the warning at the beginning of the book. This book is intended for mature readers. This book contains explicit contents of sexual languages / situations, sexual abuse, and mental health issues that some readers may find disturbing or triggering. Please read with caution and at your own risk. So I put that mainly for chapters 1 and chapter 3. So chapter 1, Trauma and Heartbreak, talks about sexual abuse and mental health issues and not being in the best places at times. So that was a part of that, why I wrote that warning. And then chapter 3 gets very pretty explicit on the sexual content. And I wanted to just give people a heads up, because sometimes poetry's good. I love poetry. Obviously, I'm a writer. Obviously, I wrote this book, but I like for people to know what they're expecting when they're reading my stuff personally. I don't want anyone to feel that they're deceived. You take it as how you will, but at least I gave you a heads up so you know what you're getting into, so you have somewhat of a premise, I believe that's the word I'm looking for, of what you're getting yourself into. So chapter 3, I want to say the first 5 or 6 poems, the cute lovey-dovey stuff. Okay, sex, love, and lust. And then from there on out, for the rest of chapter 3, it gets real fun and sexy and adult content. And like I said, I really, really let myself go and just really let myself explore and put how I truly felt in this book. And I will read to you the first poem in chapter 3. It's called 37 Mornings. See you in 37 mornings. Oh, this poem itself, this is my proof copy, so if you see some marking on it, this poem itself, I'm going to tell you. So I wrote this poem in my phone, and then obviously I translated it to my computer. But a lot of my poems, the latter poems of like when I was like still adding poems and whatnot, a lot of the poems that I later added into the book, more so of this year, a lot of them were actually inspired by Instagram posts. 37 Mornings was inspired by Claudia Sulewski. I believe that's her name. She's on Instagram. She's a makeup fashion guru, young lady. And she's also dating Phineas O'Connell. So this poem was inspired by a caption that she literally said. It was a picture of her and her boyfriend, and she said, "See you in 37 mornings." Now, I've never really been a conceptual writer. Like, I've never really written a poem based on a concept. Usually I write and then the title comes later, but I was like, "See you in 37 mornings." And that really just clicked with me. So I put it in my phone, "See you in 37 mornings." And then probably within the next couple hours, everything just kind of fell into place with this poem. So a lot of the poems that I added later on within this year, more so, a lot of them were actually inspired from Instagram posts. Maybe here and there a few Facebook posts. But a lot of these were conceptual ideas, meaning I saw a thing or a sentence or something and it sparked an idea in me. Let me... I wish I could tell you some other ones. My brain's like, I'm having a brain fart right now. But there's quite a few of them in here that are actually conceptual thoughts. I just can't really remember right now. They're all in my phone though. So 37 Mornings, which is the first poem in chapter 3. See you in 37 mornings. 37 mornings till I see your face. You're my favorite rose in this garden of love. 37 mornings till you become mine. My sunrise and sunshine. 36 nights till I become whole. 36 nights till I touch your soul. 36 days, 36 sunrises, 36 sunsets. 36 full moons, 36 new moons. Same me, same you. See you in 37 mornings. Morning seems so far away. Time stops as the days waste away. My love, good morning, my love. The countdown is over. Our time apart is up. My sunrise, my sunshine. My favorite rose in this love we've created. My love, good morning, my love. So that's 37 Mornings in chapter 3. I just thought of another one that was, excuse me, that was inspired by an Instagram post. Blue Ocean Dreams. One of my favorites in chapter 5. So the one I just read for you, was 37 Mornings in chapter 3, Sex, Love, and Lust. I'm just so excited. I'm talking so fast. Blue Ocean Dreams was inspired by Jessica Biel's post with her and Justin Timberlake. I actually have all the dates and stuff on my phone, but I can't exit out of my phone to view it because then the video's done and we don't need that. If you want more details about any poems, please, I will give you details. Just let a girl know and I'll tell you. So Blue Ocean Dreams was inspired from Jessica Biel's post. I believe it was this year. It was a picture of her and Justin Timberlake. I remember this vividly. They were underneath a pool. I don't remember if she had, like, they were in the water in the pool. She took a picture of them in the pool. Excuse me. My sinuses. And I don't remember if the caption itself was Blue Ocean Dreams, but I believe it was an entire caption, and then maybe at the end it was Blue Ocean Dreams. Excuse me. So this is another conceptual poem that Blue Ocean Dreams was somewhere in her caption. Excuse me, and it struck an idea in my head. Here comes the tidal waves. My heart's not safe. Frozen in fear I stand, better brace for impact, but nothing can hold your love back. The waves came crashing down, your love came rushing through, bombarding the entirety of my vulnerable being. Caught off guard, my anxious and dubious heart, frantically searching for the surface, in dire need of air. Thankfully, my efforts were futile. I was being dragged down, deep down into your heart, where peace and love resides. Love droplets, ripple effects. The waves calm and soothe me. I sink deeper while my worries and troubles wash away. God, that's what your love does to me. It cleanses me, purifies my soul. Deeper I sink, drowning inside your Blue Ocean Dreams. So when I wrote Blue Ocean Dreams, I was like, oh, I'm going to put it in chapter 3, which is Sex, Love, and Lust. And the more I wrote and thought about it, I was like, it fits chapter 5 perfectly. So that's how that's how I came up with that poem. So back to how I came up with how I wanted the book to flow. So again, I wanted to get the hard stuff out the way. Chapter 2, Dreamland, I wanted you to kind of get lost in this fantasy world, this dream world. Chapter 3, I kind of wanted it, I put it there because it felt very befitting. Because chapter 4 and 5, Reflective and Hope and Breakthrough, those felt good for closing, for ending chapters. And it felt right. So, chapter 4, Reflective, again, is digging deep. For me, it's digging deep within myself. But for you, the reader, it could be whatever you'd make of it. Chapter 5, Hope and Breakthrough, as I said, and I will continue to say, is a perfect ending to this book. I wanted the harder things to be at the beginning. And at the end, I wanted to take you on a journey. And at the beginning, the journey might start hard, right? But at the end, I want you to know there's always a way out. There's always a way out. And so that's why I ended it with chapter 5 with Hope and Breakthrough, because I wanted to give people, life may be hard, but there is always a way out. There's always a better way. My dad always says, there's nothing a whole 24 hours. What did he say? This is not verbatim. This is like, he said something along the lines of, your whole world could change basically in 24 hours. So don't do something temporarily in a momentarily moment. And momentarily not meaning literally a day. Momentarily can be for a while, but it's not forever, right? So I'm going to read the front and back cover to you. So obviously the front cover is Late Night Thoughts by Kai Alexandria, yours truly. Diving deep into the mind of a poet to uncover the traumas, wonders, and secrets that lie beneath the surface. I had to edit this part a million times because I didn't know how I wanted it to sound. So here's the back of the book. What are your secrets? Where do you hide your skeletons? The traumas that only you and God know about. Tragedies that are so painful that you almost suffocate just thinking about it. Does love really hurt? Or are you simply afraid of getting heartbroken or rejected? Life has no manual, and no one is exempt from any emotion or situation. Let me take you on a ride through my mind and show you my world from the inside. Don't be afraid to get lost along the way. Which poems resonate with you? Which ones shake you to your core? That's for you to decide. I can only hope that you find a piece of yourself somewhere in my pages of truth. As much as I've found peace and healing in writing this book. I'm going to read one last thing, you guys, and I'm going to book it out of here. Okay. So, I really, before I read the last thing to you, I really took my time with this. If you are working on anything in life, I don't care what it is. It might not pertain to a book or poetry or anything. Everything takes time. It is okay to revamp something to where it feels good to you and to where it feels right to you. That is totally okay. That's totally fine. You want it to be the best. You want it to be the best version it can be, but understand nothing in life is perfect. So at some point you have to let go of that control. And for a while when I was writing this back part, I felt like it had to be perfect. And if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't right. But this book is about imperfection in life, in real life. And nothing in life is perfect but imperfection. We have to embrace all the imperfect things in life. And that is totally okay. So if you are working on something in life, and like I'm sure you guys have seen those quotes, waiting for the right time. Sometimes there's not always the right time. Sometimes you just gotta let it go and let go of that control. And I'm speaking from me personally to myself, but to you guys as well. If I would have waited till this was perfect, this book probably wouldn't have came out until next year. Okay? So understand to work hard for what you want, but in the same breath, you also have to learn when to let go and to release it to the world. And I also want to say, if you have a dream, no matter what it is, I'm telling you, if you guys do my story, I'm not one. I never would have thought. I am not lying when I say this. I never thought a lot of the things that I've done, I wouldn't have done. Now, some of the things in life I knew I'd be doing, this was not one of them. I am a licensed massage therapist. Quick background. I'm a licensed massage therapist currently in my life. I took a break from writing for a long time, especially after my mom died. And I never saw myself writing a book or songwriting or doing anything with writing, because I literally just wanted to do massage and that was it. But God, and I'm not trying to push religion or God or anything on anyone, but from my personal experience, God shows you what He has in store for you. And it's not all about me at all at this point anymore. And I'm so glad and grateful and blessed that we ain't gonna cry today, that this book can help people, because I'm gonna get into it. It's gonna explain it, but I never thought I could really touch people with my words. And sometimes we just need that confidence. We need those people or situations to happen in our life to show us that we can fulfill our dreams, that we can inspire others, and that we can help others, and that it's so much bigger than us. It's not just all about us. Just like someone inspires you, you can inspire somebody else. You never know. Like Debbie, I love you. My mama bear. She has been telling me since I met her, but especially since she started reading my poetry, how much she believes in me and how much she knows my sinuses, how much she knows my words can touch people. And sometimes we need those people to help us believe in ourselves. So I'm going to read this and then I'm going to hightail it out of here. Thank you guys so much. Got all this gross stuff going on. I need to move somewhere where it's like not pollen everywhere, because, you know. This is my preface for the book. Words and the power that they hold. Excuse me. A preface basically tells you about the book and why you wrote the book and how you come about writing the book. It's a little bit different from an introduction. I think an introduction basically just tells you what the book is about. But I believe so. A preface is a little bit more personal. It tells you what the book is about, but it gives you a little bit more of how the author came up with the book. Excuse me. Words and the power that they hold. To heal, hurt, break, build, create, manifest into change. For a long time, I felt like my words meant nothing. Excuse me. So I kept them bottled up inside. I feared that speaking my truth would make me look like a fool, victim, or make me sound stupid and ignorant. But let's be honest, we've all felt these things at some point or another in our lives. No matter how old we are, no one knows it all. A lot of the time we feel like we're unrelatable, that no one has been through what we've been through, that no one could possibly understand how we feel. So, we shy away from our truth and confine ourselves in a bubble. We don't want to be judged, ostracized, misunderstood, or ridiculed. We quickly forget that we're all humans. We all have a story. We only show the bits and pieces that we want the world and people to see. No one is free from life's chaos, no matter how perfect their life may look on the outside. In my journey of life in writing this book, I learned just how detrimental and toxic keeping everything inside can be. Excuse me. It led me down a very unhealthy and destructive path for many years, but thankfully I came out on the other side. The truth hurts, sometimes too much, but it must be faced in order to grow, heal, accept, and move forward in life. I've learned to find beauty in pain, truth in confusion, and that it's okay to not have it all together all the time. I wrote this book for my own healing, understanding, and release, but there came a turning point where I realized that my words were not meant for just me anymore. I pray that this book inspires and empowers people to heal, love, forgive, accept, learn about themselves, and believe in themselves. There's broken pieces, scratches, bruises, and scars within us all. I'm no longer afraid of my past, my pain, being happy, falling in love, or being human. This book is me, my truth, and my life on paper in all of its essence and beauty. So here I am, giving it all to you. The link is with this picture, or excuse me, this video. If you like what you have heard, or if you are just curious, please feel free to buy this. I truly, truly hope and pray that this book really, really touches people, and it really gives people hope, and that people feel all of it deeply. I don't want you to just feel heartache, or I want you to feel all of it. Whatever you feel deeply, whatever touches you, no matter what chapter, no matter what poem, I want you to feel it. Like, we've gotten to this point in the world and society that if you feel you're too emotional or you're too sensitive, or we're humans, we're people. God made us in His image. He made us to feel. Feeling and emotions is what connects us to each other. So please, whatever. That's why I wrote on the back, don't be afraid to get lost along the way. Whatever you feel, whether it's in dreamland, whether it's sex, love, and lust, whatever you connect with, feel it. If you cry, cry. If you laugh, laugh. Whatever, however it makes you feel. Do not be afraid to feel whatever you read or in this book, or whatever you feel in life. We are all humans. We are all meant to feel and to relate and to understand and to come together. And I hope that this book does just that. I hope that this book touches people all over. And I am so grateful and I am so blessed that God has given me this gift to touch people and to bring people together. And I hope that this book starts conversation in dialogue, especially about the things that are hard to talk about, like sexual abuse or abuse in general, or pain or suicide or depression, anxiety, whatever it is that you feel or that you're going through or that another person is going through. I hope that this book starts conversation and starts helping people to talk about the difficult things that we're taught not to talk about or is hard to talk about. And let's talk. Please feel free to share this with anyone you know, you love. If you need it, do it for you. If you know someone that needs this, do it for them. I thank you guys for listening to me, and I love you, and I will be back. Late Night Thoughts Part 1 by Kai Alexandria. I will have the link for this book in this video. Excuse me. Yes, in the video description. Feel free to check it out. Bye.